Welcome back, Star Wars fans, to episode 88 of Ronald's Reviews, and on today's episode, which X-Wing's better? Cue the march. Welcome back, everyone. Now, like I said in the intro, today we're going to take a look at which is the best X-Wing. Now, I like my Palitoy X-Wing, but I also like my Power of the Force X-Wing. But which one's best? Only one way to find out. Just kidding, how would that even work? Okay, so we're going to start with my Palitoy vintage X-Wing. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video is I often neglect other people's sort of thoughts and opinions. No, that's not true, I don't neglect them. But I'm always so convinced that the vintage line is the best line because it's what I grew up with and it's where my nostalgic connection is when it comes to Star Wars. So I always choose sort of the vintage lines over more modern lines, so such as things like the Power of the Force 2, Episode 1, stuff like that. But then I often forget that it is a generational thing, it is an age thing. So when I think that, you know, the vintage lines are the best because I grew up with them, I forget that people like, say, young Jack over at Jangounbrained, he grew up with the Power of the Force 2 line, sort of that era, Episode 1, so he may have a very nostalgic connection to that line. And I think it's very easy for us to forget that. Us older guys, you know, 40s and 50s, I think it's quite easy for us to forget that. So I thought it'd be quite interesting just to look at the two lines today, or should I say the vehicles from two lines. So I just thought it would be quite cool to just compare my Palitoy X-Wing to my Power of the Force X-Wing. Now, I absolutely love my Palitoy X-Wing. Now, if you've got a keen eye, the first thing you'll notice is this is a smoked canopy. This is not the canopy that should be with this. This is a vintage canopy, but it is from the battle damaged X-Wing. It is a bit of a placeholder because I didn't manage to get myself a clear canopy. I couldn't get my hands on one, so I settled for this for the time being, and hopefully in time I will swap that out for a clear one. But I did do a restoration on this. I picked this up a while ago from a car boot sale. I think I picked it up for like £4, and then did a restoration on this X-Wing. The video is on my channel. I'll leave a link in the description below, but please be kind, it was an early video and the quality isn't fantastic. However, I do love my vintage X-Wing. Now, obviously the decals are a lot simpler and plainer than on the Power of the Force version. Again, these are repro decals. Obviously, when I was doing the restoration, the stickers had all disappeared, they'd all been torn off, so I had to put some repro decals on it. I'm okay with that. I really like them. I think they've done a good job, and obviously trying to source an unused set of decals is pretty much impossible. But yeah, I mean, I love this X-Wing. I love the simplicity of it. Like I say, no electrics, not like the Kenner version. I did always wonder why they used the black colour for their wing cannons. You know, I always thought they should have been like either more white or sort of grey, like they are in the movies. I was always a little confused to why they went with black. Don't get me wrong, I do like them. You know, I've grown to sort of love them. When you see the black guns on your X-Wing, you straight away think, well, it's vintage. But yeah, it was something that always occurred to me growing up, that. But I just love the whole white, nice minty white sort of look to it. I've managed to clean this up really nice. It's come up really well. So yeah, so the one thing that I think is not fantastic on these vintage X-Wings is obviously they're old, so I understand that over time mechanisms weaken and potentially break. My X-Wing does split, but it's very temperamental, look. So over time the mechanism's weakened and the wings don't stay open. However, if I press the button down, or press R2 down and then just nudge the button behind, it does stay open. So over time, these vintage X-Wings, the Palitoy and the Kenner version, the button to split the wings does weaken over time. The mechanism does weaken. So I think that is one downside. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's 40 odd years old, this vehicle, so I understand the mechanism is going to weaken. It does work, but it does take a little bit of faffing around. So yeah, so this is my, like I said, oh, there it goes, look. But yeah, I do like this X-Wing. I think it looks fantastic. Let's just see if we can do that again. The landing gear is still present to work correctly. Oh, look. Come on, stay up. It's not gonna now. Stay up, come on. No, it's gone. Okay, so let's leave it like that. But it does generally stay up, but I'm messing around with it. And I just like the simplicity of it. I say the very crisp, the decals are very crisp and very clean. No battle worn effects like the later versions. And I know people weren't keen on that version, but I just think This is a very, very crisp, clean looking X-Wing, and it does remind me of my childhood, and I do love it. And I just thought it would be interesting, like I said, to compare it to the Power of the Force line, because I think it does get a little bit stick, the Power of the Force line, certainly the figures. But yeah, but this is my Palitoy X-Wing, absolutely love it. Love that it's in my collection. Hopefully I'm going to get a box for it at some point. I would like a box for it to display with, but yeah, very difficult to get one, and quite difficult to get on in acceptable condition for a good price, but I will keep looking. But yeah, let's move on to my Power of the Force X-Wing. Okay, and here is my Power of the Force X-Wing. Now, I think it's undeniable. I love my vintage X-Wing, but I think it's undeniable that visually this looks fantastic. The weathered paintwork, the decals have got much more detail on, and the bigger decals as well. They cover a larger area, and it just looks more the part, if you ask me. When you look at it, and you can see the X-Wing in the movies much more in this X-Wing than you can in the vintage Palitoy version. I think that's undeniable. Smoked canopy, very much like the battle damage version from the vintage ones, and grey guns on this one. So again, a bit more in keeping with the movie, and I think obviously just more in keeping with the X-Wing itself. The paint applications are a lot more detailed. As you can see, there's a lot of weathering on there. See underneath as well, a bit more weathering, especially on the nose, you can see that. So again, I think visually the vehicles from the Power of the Force line are really solid, and they use the original molds. I believe they use the same molds as the vintage, so they're pretty much identical in size and design as well. So yeah, so really do like it. I think they get a little bit of stick this line, but I really like it. And I've also got the Power of the Force Falcon as well, which again I think is a fantastic vehicle. But the one thing that is notably, in my opinion, better on this version is the wing split mechanism is much stronger and more solid. Now I know this is more modern. It's what, 95 this one I think, so just over 25 years old, where the X-Wing is around 40. But the mechanism is different in this, and you can feel it when you actually split the wings. You can hear it click and lock. You can really hear that if we just listen. You can really hear it snap and lock, and they are solid now. They are not gonna drop. So, and I think Michael French did a video on this actually, and he opened it up, and I believe the locking mechanism is different to the vintage, so they're really solid and they stay open really well. So for me, that is one advantage that this X-Wing, this particular line, has got over the vintage line. You've just seen mine, it does stay open, but it takes a little bit of messing around, and then at any point it can just collapse. So I think the locking mechanism is far better. R2 looks a little bit different. It's not as chromed in this one. I didn't actually refer to that in my vintage one, did I? But R2 is much more chromed on the vintage one. But yeah, I think this is a really solid looking X-Wing. And yeah, and like I say, I think the figures, the Power of the Force line got a bit of stick. They're not for me personally. They're far too muscle bound and look a little bit like He-Man. Luke Skywalker fanboy does anyway. But yeah, but the vehicles I think are really overlooked. I really do like them. Like I say, I've got a Power of the Force TIE Fighter, I've got a Power of the Force Falcon, and I've got a Power of the Force X-Wing, and I think they are really attractive and a fantastic alternative if you can't get a vintage X-Wing. You know, I understand that people will probably want to go for vintage unless they specifically prefer the more modern stuff, but if you cannot get your hands on a Kenner or Palitoy X-Wing, I think this is a really affordable and really strong alternative. I would definitely recommend one if you're looking for an X-Wing and you're not particularly bothered if it's vintage or not. I think it's a fantastic alternative. But yeah, much more screen accurate and just a really solid looking vehicle. So yeah, I really do like it. And I'm pleased I've got it into my collection. Okay, so let's go take one final look at both together. So So there we go, everyone. I think you'll agree they look fantastic on display together, and just both look amazing in their own right. I really do like both vehicles. My heart would be with the Palitoy, with the vintage, but I really do like the Power of the Force version. I think it is fantastic, like I say, in its own way. As you can see, I've managed to get my vintage X-Wing to split again with the wings, and they are staying. I'm not going to touch it because they will definitely drop if I do. And as you can see, I have actually got the box for my Power of the Force version. I would like to get a box for my vintage version, all in good time, but answers on a postcard, by the way. If anyone knows why they thought it would be a good idea to put Farmboy Luke in the cockpit on that box and not X-Wing Luke, always found that weird, but I do like the box for the Power of the Force line, and it is very, very displayable, so really happy to have that. So yeah, like I say, if you enjoyed that video, just jump into the comments and let me know what you think. Do you prefer the vintage version? Do you prefer the more modern stuff? I think it's quite generational. I'm always very interested to hear younger people's thoughts. So Jack from Jangounbrained especially, very interested to hear your thoughts, Jack. Jump in the comments, let me know what you think. I know you like your vintage stuff, but I also know you've sort of grown up with the more modern stuff as well. So always interested to hear younger people's thoughts. But everyone else as well, let me know what you think. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer any of them? You know, are you not really fussed? Do you like both? Always interested to hear people's thoughts and opinions. So yeah, there we go, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by and giving me a shot. I hope you'll consider leaving a like and subscribing. And if you're an existing viewer, an existing subscriber, thanks for sticking with me, guys. I do appreciate it. Leave any comments or questions in the comment section below. I always read people's comments and reply to everyone. And as always, keep collecting. I'll see you next time.